Master Grade Jesta, and we're doing this build for the Gunpla Builders Association Cannon Fodder Contest. So it was just basically a grunt suit that you had to pick out. You could pick out any scale, and they have a couple different categories all the way from just straight snap built through custom category. I'm going right in the middle. The advanced category is what they call it, and it's mainly just about painting, not so much about adding any parts or modifying the kit too much. So this is the kit I chose. For me, I think it's one of the better looking grunt suits. I think it's a little cooler looking than like the GM. A lot more modern. And this one's from Gundam Unicorn, which had some great designs if you ask me. So I'm going to just do a quick unboxing here and show you guys what's in this, and then we'll move on to building the kit. So I'll take off this. I haven't removed anything out of the bags yet, so I'll try to limit that crunchy noise. But here we have the instruction manual right on top. This is before they started printing anything in English, so it's all Japanese. I'm sure you could find most of it on the wiki page, and it looks like we're going to use pretty much everything minus a couple of polycaps have X's on them, which is pretty normal. The polycap runners are kind of generic for quite a few models, and we'll have an extra beam saber. And this does have the 3.0 style hands, so the fully articulate hands, which will be interesting. I have not built that in Master Grade yet, only in Perfect Grade. So here's just a quick going through the manual. Start off with the body, head, arms, waist, legs, and bring it all together, and the weapons last. So pretty typical. Nothing surprising there. And you have a couple of different things you could do with it, places you can mount the weapons, and last, the decal guide. So here we have some runners. We have a couple of clear orange pieces, looks like for the visor and the cameras. We have only one foil sticker. I don't know if you guys can see that. I guess that's probably for either the gun or the camera in the head. I believe it's the camera in the head. And we have some nice dark blue and a little lighter blue. So we got that. Here we got the hands that look like, I don't know, crabs or something mounted in there. Like I said, I haven't put these together yet. In the Perfect Grade, they all come in separate pieces. They don't come on a tree like this where you have to like snap it into place. So we'll see how that goes. And then we have two clear pink bean sabers on the lighter side of the pink. And then you have your A runner. Okay, there it is. I was going to say it's only two colors. There's your third white color, dark blue, and a orangey yellow, which I kind of like. Another bag of dark blue runners. We have some clear pieces. Looks like one for, again, the visor or eye. And I'm not sure what this little ball looking one is. And then we have some gray for the inner frame. And then I'm not sure if this will show up on camera or not. Let's see. Some nice detail in the inner frame. Really nice. Very nice looking inner frame. So we got inner frame, a bunch more inner frame, and inner frame that's not in a bag. That's interesting. Okay, well, either way, that one's out, and you can see that detail there. So, really nice looking stuff. Looks like some parts for the backpacks and the hips here. So, I think this should be a fun snap. And I might use some of these dry transfers. They have some cool EFSF logos. Those look like Anaheim Electronics logos. A couple of nice things. We'll see. I'm not sure. Actually, no, those are just stickers, so we won't be using any of those. Yeah, those are just sticker decals. So, no, never mind. We won't be using any of those. But I do have a couple of water slide sets, just kind of generic EFSF stuff, and a couple of more generic things that I have set aside for this model. Like I said, I'll be painting it, and I will not be keeping with this blue color. I'll go over the color choices later. But now I'm gonna, in my last work in progress, I realized I kind of just showed you guys in steps what I had already done. This time around, I'm gonna try to show you guys my actual working. So I'll go through my process for building and what I do, and it might differ from anyone else's, or it might be exactly the same, but either way. So what I do first is I actually cut all of the parts out and put them into containers based on what they are. So for instance, the body unit, I have these little Tupperware containers, and you can see this in my awful handwriting, says body and head. So I'll put all the head and body pieces in there, and then I have a couple of separate ones for left leg, right arm, left arm, weapons, stuff like that. So I like to cut them out first, not do any of the nub removal initially, separate them all, and then do the nub removal and put them together and build the model. I like to build the model once before I do any painting, so I'll build it and then disassemble and paint it. It seems like kind of a pain because you're just building it to take it all back apart, but I really like to look at it and see where I want to put colors, also see if maybe there's any seam lines I have to address. Sometimes in the manual it's not that obvious, they might be hidden as panel lines, but when you build it, you can really see like, oh man, that's just two pieces sandwiched together and it's going to have a seam. So what I use these are just some Tamiya modeling side cutters. These are pretty basic, pretty inexpensive, definitely under 20 bucks, I would say. And they're not as sharp as like your Tamiya sharp side pointed cutters or your God hands or anything like that. They're just kind of a utility cutter. It doesn't matter because I'm not cutting anywhere near the actual part. This is just to get them off of the runners and into these. So give me just a second. I'm going to come right back to you guys. Let me just take all this stuff out of the bags and put it where I need it. So give me just a sec, guys. All right, guys, back. Got everything out of the bags. And the way I have it separated or organized right now is it's just in the bottom of the box. And I have A through, I believe this one goes to about G. Those are all just separated in alphabetical order outside of the polycaps and any of the small runners or clear runners. The clear runners, I'm not even going to cut out those. I'm not going to cut them out until the very end. So just throw those to the side. The hands I'll put to the side because I'll have to dig in the box for them, and I'll keep the polycaps to the side. Also, while I was unbagging everything, I knew I saw some dry transfers in here. They were just on the back side. So when I opened the box initially, when I received it in the mail, I was like, man, I swore there were some dry transfers in there. So there are, and I might use them. We'll see. Like I said, I have some water slides though, so I'm not too worried about it. So what I do is just basically follow this along. You can do this however you like. Sometimes I'll go through it, like grab, let's say, the first part I notice here is the runner C10, it's a little pilot, and then I'll just look through this whole section for all the C's, cut out all the C's, put them in my Tupperware, then move on to E, cut out all the E's, F, H, so forth and so on. So let's just grab the C runner for instance, and I'll show you how I do this. So we're looking for C10, C10 is the little pilot figure. I'm just going to come from the bottom here and cut as far away as I can. And off he comes. Got our little pilot figure. He goes in my Tupperware. All right. These napkins are in here. This paper towel is in here from my previous build. After I wash the parts, which I'll go over later, I'll put a paper towel in here and let them sit with the cover off so that they can dry. But for right now, actually, we really don't need these. Just get rid of that. So this is just going to be some parts. So, like I said, I just cut everything off the runners, put them in my labeled containers, and that's what I'm going to do now. I won't show me cutting every part off. That'll be quite a boring, long video. So I'm going to cut here, and I'll come back with all of the parts separated and into their little containers, and then I'll show you my cleanup process and do a quick snap of the model. All right, so I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, I'm back and I have everything cut off of the runners. So I just want to show you guys, like I was talking about earlier, I have these little Ziploc Tupperware things, and I have a little label on there. Like this one says weapons and accessories. And if we open that up, you got everything in here that has to do with that. I think I also threw the backpack in here as well. But if you can see, like right there, I still have the nub on everything. So I was going to show you guys some of the tools that I use to denub on the stuff. I'll just use this piece. It should work just fine. Let me zoom you guys in here. Get a little closer. Alright, so first thing, I cut these parts pretty much as far away from them as I could, for the most part. And this is going to be the first tool I'm going to use to trim all the nubs up. It's the God hand clippers. You don't have to get anything like this. I mean, I know the Tamiya sharp pointed side cutter. Yeah, those work really well. You can do like the Gundam Planet nippers. There's a bunch of other different types of nippers that are a little finer than the ones I used to cut it off the runner. So you're just trying to get rid of some more plastic here. So what I like to do is, if I'm not painting the model, you obviously want a little or no nub mark as you can. So what I'll do then is I'll usually try to clip this twice. So I made my first cut where I just cut a little bit off, and you can still see that's kind of hard to pick up. Let's see. You can still see a little nub there. Alright, so I made one cut, and then I will make 2 cuts. Alright, now it's actually still there. You can still see a little nub. See kind of like a little imperfection in the plastic there. Sorry, this is kind of hard to pick up, guys, on camera. Okay, it's a little tiny piece. There you go. Now you can still see that little part right there. So, on to the next tool. Most of the time what I'll do is I will take my hobby knife and I will just gently kind of scrape it off. Now, there are times when you can get this perfect, like you won't have to do anything else after it, and there are times when you'll have a little bit left. Now, to the feel, this is all gone, and you can't really see it very much, but I can see just a little tiny imperfection. So like I said, if I was not painting this model, I would want it perfect. So I would take a sanding stick or some sandpaper. These are God hand sanding sticks, and I'll just clean it up a little bit. And you just want to be careful as to not remove too much plastic, especially on something like an edge here or if you're against the detail. But that's all you're doing. You're just going here, getting rid of as much of it as you can. I said the goal, if you're not painting, is to make it look like nothing. So that was 600 grit. Now I'll take some 800 grit. Kind of go over the whole area there. And you can't see the mark anymore. Take some 1000. And normally I have like another little buffer after this to get it pretty much perfect. But like I said, this is kind of hard to see, but the nub's gone. Trust me. Wink, wink. No. Nub is all gone. So it's all cleaned up. Now, like I said, that's for if I'm not painting the model, because you obviously want the plastic to look as good as possible. But if you are going to paint the model, you aren't going to be as worried about stress marks. You want the part smooth. You don't want to feel anything because you'll see it in the paint. But you don't really care if it's got like a little white mark on it because that's going to get covered anyway. So like here's a thicker nub, and what I would just do is take my finer cutters. I'm not going to cut straight flush up against the plastic because that's just a bad idea. You'll gouge it, but I'm going to cut it just once. I don't really care about the stress mark. The idea of cutting it twice was to reduce the stress mark. I'm going to take my knife. I'm going to go at it from both sides here, trying to keep the blade as flat as I can. And I'm going to get most of it off. And then I'm just going to switch to sandpaper to get the rest of it off, or a sanding stick. And like I said, what I'm checking for is to make sure the part is flat. I don't really care what it looks like. I don't care if there's a little white mark or if you can still see it, but that's all gone. Now I'll take some 6 and some 8, and that's all gone. I can't feel it anymore. There's nothing there to worry about. And the last tool I'll use sometimes are files. Files are good. They do a really good job of removing nubs quickly. They take a lot more material, I would say, than like sanding sticks at one time. They kind of just, you'll see they take a lot of plastic with one swipe. So you want to be careful with them. They can gouge up your plastic really bad if you get away. So if they get away from you. So what I like to do is I don't like to leave the nub mark huge. It's just a lot of filing. So I'll cut it down a little bit. And then I'll take a file. These are just little hobby files. You can get them on Amazon. Just type in like hobby files. It'll come with a couple of different options in there, and they'll all look a little different. You'll have maybe some round ones, some half round ones. This is just a plain old flat file. And you'll see them in different sizes too. Like this is a Tamiya one, and it's obviously quite a bit bigger handle for holding, but the file itself is actually not that much different in size. But I kind of like this little one. And when you're filing, I always like to work in one direction. I believe these files will cut each way, but I just find you have a lot more control when you start going like this at the part. That's when you can really start gouging the plastic, because you want to keep the file as flat as you can. You don't want it to dive one way or the other. And you also want to be careful about how you're working with it. So this nub is flat on a surface, right? It's not on a corner or anything, like it's not facing that way, diagonal or anything like that. So I want to keep this flat surface here. I don't want it to be rounded or anything. So I have to be careful to keep the file flat. I don't want it down like this or like that. I just want to make sure it's perpendicular to the part as perfectly as I can, right? So I'll take it and just go work against me. This is a lot harder to do with a camera and a microphone in my face. I'll tell you guys that. So just check the part. Like I said, this kind of removes a lot more material than the sanding sticks. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I actually left a lot more nub on this one with the cutter just to show this. And we're almost there. Like I said, I'm trying to keep the file as flat as possible. And there we go. That's all gone. So the file leaves, kind of a lot of marks. I'll go in usually with a sanding stick, just kind of clean it up. That was kind of like I probably wouldn't have used the file in that situation. What I actually like to use files for, personally, are those really, really, really thick nubs that you get. They usually come on like armor pieces, actually, I find. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. So I'll use the file for that as opposed to use less. I try to use less of the cutters, just because the cutters are, even though these are sharp, they are going to leave a little bit of stress. So if you can use the cutters less and the file more, you'll get less of a stress mark. But in this case, I just wanted to show you guys using a file. So, like I said, the tools that I'll use for nub removal is first a set of finer cutters, then you cut everything off the runner with. And another thing about these, you don't want to use something like this to cut your part off the runner. I'm sure all you guys have seen people on social media, really upset because they bought a $60 pair of God hands and they broke them. And they're more than likely not using them correctly. So you want to use a more heavy-duty cutter like this one. And you can see the difference in the blade, how thick they are. These Tamiya ones are much thicker. I have such a hard time with this getting to focus. There we go. I had it. Sorry, guys. So the Tamiya ones are much thicker, and the God hand ones are much finer and sharper. And also the Tamiya ones have a blade on each side, and the God hand ones only have a cutting blade on one side. So you're kind of, you're having a flat part and a blade kind of go like that and cut through on one side, whereas these Tamiya ones are more like scissors, coming through like this. So these are great for removing parts off the runner. But then when I'm cleaning, I'll use my God hands, and I don't use the God hands to remove parts off the runner. You will break them. They're not that durable, and you also don't want to remove clear plastic parts with them, like this. This is the runner for the visor, and it's that kind of hard plastic, like they have it for visors frequently, or like the parts on the 00 Gundams, the condenser parts are made out of like this type of material. These are fine for cutting the soft material that like beam sabers are made out of. This stuff's pretty flexible and it's just not very hard, so you can get right through these with this. So, like I said, this is my first tool. Then I'll usually use a hobby knife. This is the Tamiya Modeler's Knife Pro, and my recommendation is do not waste your money on it. You're not going to be able to see this because it's like just all in black, but there's a little engraving right there. This is actually made by Olfa, so you can just go on Amazon or wherever you're buying you can probably even find them in like a Michaels or something like that. Just look for an Olfa knife, and you can get these little Olfa blades. This is just a bunch of blades in there, replacement blades. So yeah, you can just get this on Amazon. It's pretty cheap. So yeah, don't spend, this thing is like $15, and you can probably buy the Olfa knife for like $7, and it's just a different color, but it's the same thing. So yeah, hobby knife. And then from there, I will go with sanding sticks. There's so many different manufacturers of these. These are God hand sanding sticks, and contrary to the cutters, I actually can get these for pretty cheap in like either variety pack or one particular grit. Like I can get a bunch of 400s. Let me see if I have a pack so I can kind of show you here. Yeah, here we go. They kind of come in this thing right here. Just a little pack. This has still got like some of the other ones in there. And some of them are thicker than others. I believe these are the 3mm thickness ones, and then there's like an 8, I want to say. Could be wrong there. And that's just how thick the actual padding is. So it has nothing to do with the grit. But the thicker the pad, sometimes that'll help you keep the sanding stick from bending at all if you want to, sand on an edge and you don't want to lose it. So those are just preference. Sometimes I use these thin ones, sometimes I use thicker ones. They don't really, doesn't matter to me. And then, like I said, for stubborn nubs, I will go into a file. The files have a lot of uses in this hobby. Not only can they remove nubs, but they're great for part shaping. Like if you wanted to, like this shield has a flat edge on it, all right here. It's probably only like 1 millimeter thick, I would say. But let's say you don't want that edge, you wanted it to come to a point. You could take this file and file this whole part and get it to come to a point. So that would take you much, much less time than trying to use something like sandpaper, and you could do much finer work with it. So yeah, you can use files. They're great for cleaning up some of those really thick parts that are going to leave a stress mark. So you just hit them with this and then clean them up with some sandpaper. And that's what I normally use. And like I said, I'm going to be painting all of this, so I don't really care if it still has the stress marks. So I'm not going to be as careful as I just was there. I'm just going to kind of nip everything off and sand it real quick. As long as you don't feel anything and see anything, you're going to be good, and we're going to check it with the primer later anyway. So I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes of parts that I have to go through and clean up. So let me clean all these up, and then I'll meet you guys back here and we will assemble them.